Hi, welcome to Becoming More, the podcast where you too can become more by listening to other people's successes as well as their failures. Now, this podcast, if you're about intentionality, you want to have more discipline in your life, maybe you want to be a little bit more curious, have great conversations, and you have a commitment to growth, well, then this podcast is for you. I have my great friend Tyler Weant with me. He is in real estate. He has become a legend. That means that you're not that old, though. And he also has invested in the growth and implementation of orthodontic care. Now, I know you have various locations for your orthodontic care and being in real estate. I'm just curious. These two are so different, yet there's got to be principles about leadership and practices in business that come into both. So let's start there and get it going.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so very much for inviting me on your podcast. And I've been blessed in having the ability to change careers multiple times and being able to discover things that I'm passionate about. And rehabilitating businesses is something that I enjoy doing. And helping others achieve their greatest success is something that I also have a passion for. And, some of those leadership lessons that I learned starting out in, the early 2000s, taking over a failing pest control company and then moving into real estate and then into orthodontic practice management, some of those leadership skills are universal. And one of the greatest blessings I had when transitioning into real estate is coming across some of the things that you had put together, specifically around mindset. Because I truly believe that everything that we do really begins with mindset.
Yeah, it does. And what's interesting about mindset, though, I'm glad that you brought that up because right now a lot of people are in scarcity mindset with the market changing in real estate, with businesses. I mean, let's face it, the world is changing in some areas. Yet our mindset being 95% of our success, what do you do to work on your mindset?
I have to be intentional with my mindset. And every single morning, go through a similar routine just to get the day started. And I've got anchor points throughout my day. I do my best to get up early in the morning, 4:45 a.m. to be at the gym by 9, because that physical activity really gets the day started. And then either meditation or reading my Bible, some type of calm activity that kind of resets and centers before the world gets hectic. Because I've got 4 kids and getting them up and dressed and onto the bus and everything can make life hectic. And there's always something like a peanut butter sandwich that gets thrown in there in a backpack that creates a bigger mess. And so strategically, I've got another anchor point right after those kids get on the bus. And that's a conversation call that I do on a daily basis for real estate professionals. And it's something that I have to attend every single day. I did it. People ask, hey, why do you do the conversation call every single day? Well, it was a great source of accountability for me because I was participating in other calls. You run a great call that's educational and informational. If I weren't to show up to that call, nobody would notice. So I created something that I had to show up for, where if I don't show up on time, my phone starts ringing. Hey, where are you? That's the entire reason I do that, is that a second anchor point in my day to reset.
So you're setting habits of discipline that get you started during the day. And is that routine pretty much the same every single day?
Every single weekday, yeah. Monday through Friday, it's wake up, gym, shower and get ready, get kids ready, and then reset with a call, and then the call that I do at 8:30 to 9 a.m. Eastern.
With helping so many people, and you're looking at all these businesses, and you look at people and you see potential growth that, they don't see. I know that. What do you evaluate first when you're thinking about the potential growth that this business has to offer?
It's mindset. It's talking to people and seeing where they see themselves in the future. Are they the type of growth mindset person that are continuously striving to achieve better things? And there's even some people that I've interviewed, whether it's for real estate or orthodontics, who have great potential that they just don't see in themselves. And that's one of the things that's intriguing to me, because they have ingenuity and they have passion for getting started. And there are just simply things that they don't know that are standing in their way. So, that's some of where I do mentorship and coaching with individuals, whether it's on our team with our orthodontic practice, if they're, front desk reception, or if they're in our treatment lab, working on patients, is helping people understand that they have the potential to become more than what they are right now, as long as they're dedicated to their continuous growth.
Yet they don't sometimes believe in themselves enough. So what are some of the things that you have found, Tyler, that you've helped people believe in themselves long before they ever did?
Well, asking great questions, remaining in curiosity, and asking questions to uncover their mindset, their beliefs, and like you have said, limiting beliefs. And sometimes these are systematic, and sometimes they're habitual, sometimes they're family interpreted, that they got from their grandmother or parent or someone else. And their limiting beliefs are in set, and we have to ask great questions, because I can tell somebody that I see more in them than they see in themselves. But until they understand, if we ask better questions and have them have that aha moment to release the limits on their potential.
Yeah, a lot of people, though, they don't ask questions. They don't ask questions of themselves. They don't ask questions of the people that they lead. They're more telling or believe they have to have all of the answers. What was it that literally got you started on asking questions?
There's this great class I took in 2017. You may have heard of it. It's called Bold.
Yeah.
And it was.
Now, for those listening, that's a joke because I wrote it. So there you go.
So it was the mindset and motivation portion of that, the scripts and role play that we learned in that class, and the fact that by remaining in curiosity and limiting assumptions, you get a better understanding of another person's perspective. And that's one of the things we repeat on a regular basis is, limit your assumptions, come from curiosity, and ask powerful questions to direct a conversation. All too frequently, we get caught up in assumptions.
You have to be humble to do that. If you have a lot of hubris, you got this big ego, you're never going to ask questions because you want to be the one that knows everything. What was it that allowed you to go from desiring, which we all go through, we want to desire to be able to answer the questions, and sometimes we think leadership is that we have all the answers, versus you go into question mode to find out more about the person or whatever you're exploring?
Like you've said, success leaves clues, and you learn most by trial and error, by failure. And failure in trying to tell somebody what they should be listening to or what they should be thinking doesn't land. By remaining in curiosity and having success at asking people questions and having them self-discover, it means more to them. Now, there's a great book that I've also read by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. And he says in that book that when somebody says, "Oh, you're right," that's not a win. They have to say, "Oh, that's right," because that's them internalizing. If you're right all the time, then it's just your idea. It's the person who's talking to them's idea. When they get to understanding and you've asked great questions, they get to the, well, that's right. Now the idea is what's right, not you, the person. And that's where they get further.
That's so good, though. And I love that, because people literally desire to be with you when they feel understood. They don't need to understand what you know. They just need to feel understood. And you work with a lot of people. Let's face it, we all make mistakes. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you find entrepreneurs making today, especially when they acquire businesses?
Well, we've got 4 stages of knowledge, right? We've got unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, I messed it up. It's
We know what you mean, though.
yeah.
We're all
And
there.
so,
We're
so
with
it's
you.
going to the biggest failure I see that people getting into a new business or acquiring a business, starting new, is thinking they know more than they actually do. It's stopping asking the questions. It's limiting their curiosity and thinking that they know the answer or they can give it to somebody else. And I've been in real estate for going on 10 years now, and asking questions. Hey, what is that going to do for you? Has been some of the biggest gains, because I'll start understanding things about people that I'm sitting down with for the first time that I would have never guessed and never assumed. And they start unpacking the reason for their choices, the reason for the decisions, and their motivation. And when we're talking about somebody else's motivation, whether it's a teenager getting a first job or it's a homeowner selling a multi-million-dollar home, I can give you all the reasons in the world. That's not your motivation. When we start talking about your interest and your motivation, it's going to move you so much further and faster.
I hear about you being in real estate, and then from you being in the inner circle, we're talking, and I understand that you own many businesses in the orthodontic area. And I'm going, okay, how did a realtor get into the business of buying and purchasing orthodontic care businesses?
Well, the simple answer to that is I output in my coverage. My wife is an intelligent individual who became a dentist and then an orthodontist. And so she is the orthodontist at the practice. She and I, purchased 3 locations around Atlanta. And in doing so, she realized that she needed some help in leadership and management. And so I stepped into the role of director of growth and leadership and education. So I'm helping to teach individuals inside her practice, what things they can achieve and unlimit their beliefs and show them how to get to the next step so that they can also achieve more than they're currently achieving right now.
Okay, so you've got these people and you give them ideas, or they come up with great ideas, though. You've got to make certain that they're implemented. What are some of the steps that you take to make certain implementation happen?
The biggest thing of implementation is setting a go date. It's not learning for learning's sake, but learning for earning's sake. And that means you have to have dates that you need to meet, goals and assessments. You have said several times, people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 5. And, having that great idea is wonderful. But if you never start down the path to achieving it, then you're never getting anywhere. And, just setting down, hey, when you learn something new, when you've got a great idea, taking 15 minutes to pause and say, hey, let's look at the calendar. And what are our goals and deadlines for implementing this? And one of the leadership lessons I learned is sitting down with individuals on a regular basis and reviewing, hey, and I've got a notebook that's got pages for each one of the employees that I meet with to set goals with. And it's got their goals on that page. And so I go to the page and I review, hey, last time we talked, you said you wanted to, and insert their motivation of their goal. How are you doing at that? You said you wanted to have a brand new car by Christmas. Right. Have you saved up? What is your achievement level on that? And a lot of times they've forgotten. They know the goal, but they didn't write it down and they didn't take action on getting towards that goal. So helping them implement and saying, hey, let's talk about this in 2 weeks and let's see how much money you've saved towards that new car.
So they have these goals, though, but a lot of people get stuck. Mm-hmm. And when they get stuck, how do you know if it's the strategy, the person themselves, maybe their systems or the leadership that they have, or just plain execution?
Great question. It can be a little bit or all of some of it. Sometimes people are just overwhelmed with everything they've got going on and they simply fail to start. Other times it's they started a plan and they didn't achieve, they missed 1 or 2 markers on the way. And so then they surrendered and gave up. Having those micro milestones along the way to be able to celebrate wins, even if it's a small win. Hey, opening a savings account specifically for the car, putting $50, $20, $100 in the savings account. Those are micro milestones that you can achieve and succeed along the way and celebrate. Now, you don't celebrate by going out and spending $200 on dinner. if your goal is, getting the new car by Christmas. And having those micro milestones is something to help people see that achievement is possible, even though it's not the entire goal.
Do you help people set those milestones along the way, and do you celebrate with them?
Absolutely. Yeah. We sat down, hey, what does that plan look like? And again, I don't contribute to the plan. I ask great questions and remain in curiosity, because my definition of what achievement looks like is going to be different than theirs.
Well, and you and I both know from being coaches, there's coaches out there that want to tell people what to do instead of asking questions and see what we can pull out of people. How did you learn to literally just zip it and let people talk and truly listen to understand what that next question could possibly be that will uncover the problem that they have and actually present a solution to it?
So that's one of my biggest downfalls and I'm probably missing the left side of my tongue from biting on my tongue while people are telling me their plan. And I just want to say, well, why don't you just go do this? And I can't say that. So biting on my tongue has become a competitive sport, I believe, so that I don't give them an idea that they should be coming up with. So, I mean, that's one of my failure points, is having to bite my tongue and not say, hey, why don't you just do this thing? And remaining in curiosity, asking those great questions.
I love that. I put my tongue on the roof of my mouth so I can't talk, and I keep it there. Like it's a discipline thing, like just let it go, let it go. Eventually something's going to come out. It's going to bubble up and we're going to help these people. And that's what it's about. Yet creating systems helps people so much. Why do you think they resist? I don't know. Maybe your people don't resist systems. I have seen that some people love just shooting from the hip instead of literally documenting what they do. I know how to do it. Well, yeah, you may not be here one day, though. Maybe you're out on vacation and we need to know how to do it. So write down step by step. What is it that people don't like those details? Or maybe you're finding that everybody does.
Well, some people just get caught up in doing the thing. They're so busy living in the moment that they don't plan for the future. And hey, that's over the years looking back, that's one of my failure points as well, is not listing the systems. And so that's one of the things, since being part of the inner circle and listening to Elijah, and I've got his book back here, AI Shock.
Wasn't that great?
Using AI systems to help document those systems as we're doing them has helped out a lot for me personally. I've got it on a drop down on my computer that just records as I'm going through and doing tasks and creates basically a slideshow of how to do, whether it's paying bills or ordering materials or whatever the system is. If I'm doing it on a computer, then it will document and log and write out the system and have the step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Because I don't have an assistant that will follow me around and do that like some people will.
And so the AI program that you use to do that with is?
I couldn't tell you. I would have to look it and get back to you. It's one of the several ones. Claude is one that I've implemented since we did the class with the Inner Circle in New York.
Isn't it interesting with the Inner Circle, how many things we've actually learned and put into practice? And Claude there we sat with our computer and had 2 hours with someone showing us hands-on, experiencing it. I've been to a lot of AI classes, and yes, they show you up on the big screen and you take all these notes and you get back and you go, what did he say here? I missed a step somewhere. Yet having your computer there and doing that, I don't know about you, it certainly helped me a lot with many things. What did you come back and implement right away from that Inner Circle?
Well, the benefit of Inner Circle in New York in that setting was the small group setting. There's not more than 30 people in the room, and having someone who is an expert in the field and being able to not only absorb the information, but have that Q&A portion and say, hey, I'm struggling with this thing and implementing that. How do I get here? And having Elijah came over and said, hey, here's what you need to do. Click on that button and enable these skills. And that's been monumental. He was telling a story about how he had his AI system that, realized that his computer was failing and it went online and ordered a part just this past weekend. All right. So side note, our dryer failed this past weekend, right? And it was the heating coil inside the dryer. I'm somewhat tech savvy. So I pulled the dryer apart, removed the heating coil, and I asked Claude AI to find the part locally for the cheapest price. And it was working in the background. I went online and did a Google search to try to find the same part by item number. And I found 3 different options. The one that I found was over $70 plus $20 shipping, and it would be here on Thursday. Claude, after listening to Elijah and being able to, found the same part within 4 miles of my house that was ready this morning. I went and picked it up this morning, and the dryer's fixed. And the part was cheaper. Instead of being over $70, close to $100 for part and shipping, it was $62 and some change, and it's already installed and done. So it's being adaptable and using the tools available to learn and do things slightly better.
Yet there's people that, I called so many people to be part of the inner circle and told them what they would be receiving. And I asked a lot of questions and things, yet they chose for that price, which to me is very, very low considering to the other inner circles that you have. I mean, $12.50 a month for this one coming up, and you get to go to have experiences and get to go to events and hear great speakers. Like, look at just that one thing that you learned with Claude. I mean, you've now put strategies together, you put systems together, you know how to fix your dryer, for heaven's sakes, and all of that because you attended one program. Why do you think people go into that scarcity mindset of, ooh, that's so much money, instead of, wow, that is so inexpensive for what I'll get out of it? Well,
I'll have to be honest with you, Dianna. And actually, let me change the wording I use. I'll have to be direct and upfront with you. Because I was being honest before.
I was going to say, have you been lying up till now? I don't think so.
No, the inner circle is simply not for everybody.
That's right.
Some people are not ready for exponential growth. They haven't adopted that growth mindset yet. And they're weighing price versus, I don't know what I'm going to receive.
That's the key. Yeah.
And that's the limiting mindset. People say, oh, well, there's this money and I don't really know what I can achieve. And that's the folks, those people that are questioning it are probably the ones that would benefit the most, but they may just not be ready right now.
Isn't it interesting? Because it's one idea that could make you tens of thousands of dollars. And I look at those items and I believe hearing the fact of never let your checkbook do the thinking for you has been one of the greatest statements that I've ever given to people. Because when we let our checkbook start doing the thinking for us, we start thinking of what we cannot do versus what we're able to do. And education is something both you and I we've invested in ourselves a lot. What's the best investment do you think that you've ever made in yourself? And it can be back clear when you're 10 years old, for heaven's sake.
Man, that's a great question. And I'd have to really pour into that one to give you the best answer. I know that there have been several small investments. One of them that I was seriously considering not doing at all, and has been the best for me, was taking Bold. Because that was really the first time I got introduced into unlimited mindset, unlimiting one's limiting mindset, and exponential growth. And, they've said multiple times throughout that course, hey, you have to take this more than once. It's the same reason that it's a great idea to read a book a second time or watch a movie, because there are things that happen early on that you don't quite get because the part that lands is going to be at the end. But when you go back through and do it a second time, you have these aha moments. That's why this is going on right now, because it's going to change into this later on. And it wasn't until the 6th time that I actually attended Bold and was bought in and participating, that I actually got some of the greatest value out of that course. Now, I'd already taken it 5 previous times, and not that it had great instructors and great, material, but it's just like they say in that course, no man steps in the same river twice, because the man is different and the river is different.
Yeah.
And so, having taken that multiple times, the aha moment was in Bold number 6, and it was just a variation on a script that was taught differently by the instructor that day. And it changed the way that I role played, and actually changed the passion I have for educating other people about how to have better conversations. Because small words that you change in a conversation can change the way that those words react inside somebody's head. And of all people, you're the expert at that, because you've been structuring and crafting phrases and word choices for years to be able to resonate and land with buyers and sellers and individuals who have difficult choices to make.
Yeah, our words have to be so intentional. And interesting enough, most people literally started getting the most ahas from Bold between 6 and 8 times through. I think because it was the very first time that anyone had taken quantum physics, mindset, psychology, and real estate and combined all of those together. And having all of that education that I had taken and studying the brain since I was in 8th grade, bringing that to people literally helped a lot of people make the choice to change their life. Because I know I didn't change their life. They had to make the choice as you did. Yet you've made this choice, and you've made choices to create systems. You've made choices to purchase businesses. I'm just curious, what's the difference between a startup, which you did in real estate? You started from nothing, and yet going into the orthodontic business and purchasing something. There's a vast difference.
There's a vast difference. The biggest difference is momentum. It's getting in something that's already got systems in place and moving, and having to start and create something. And that's one of the things I loved about the systems I learned from you through Bold and through other means. We're not the ones inventing the wheel. Somebody else out there has done the thing you're trying to do before you. And it's just one of the biggest objections I hear when people say, hey, I can't have this conversation because this doesn't sound like me.
Yeah. I get that a lot. And I go, yes. And you literally memorize, internalize, and then you can personalize. Yet we've got to go through those steps. And when you're looking, though, at a business, and I love the momentum part, when you're starting out, if you don't have people that want to get into momentum, that are willing to put their shoulder to the wheel, so to speak, it's going to be challenging. Because I know in starting MAPS, it was myself and one coach, and then ending up with over 497 coaches, group coaches, Bold coaches, one-on-one, breakthrough, all the different transformational versus business, all the different coaches that we had. It didn't happen overnight. Yet a lot of people want to step into something that's already going. Those businesses you purchased obviously didn't sell because they were up and going so great. They probably sold and were good investments because they needed your help. So you go into this business, it's got a culture of its own. How do you determine to keep that culture or to change it? And how often do you change?
Well, coming from curiosity, and it all goes back to seeking to understand before being understood. Whether you're sitting down at a listing with a homeowner who's trying to sell their home, or you're purchasing a multi-million-dollar business, you can't go in on day one and start telling people what to do. Right? Because then you're just a dictator. Right. And so you have to ask great questions and get perspective. Hey, what's the reason that this is done this certain way? What's the reason that you're thinking about selling this home at this point in time? What's the reason that you continue to show up late to work every single day? Right? And understand those things. And bless them, some people they were in a specific situation where they had no support at home. They had to get 2 kids on a bus. And by getting the kids on the bus and then leaving for work, they needed help. But I had to understand that before I could say, hey, we're just going to cut you loose because you can't show up to work on time. Those have been some of the best employees that we have working with us. because, hey, rather than jumping to conclusions, it was seeking first to understand and, going in and identifying issues. One of the things that I love to do is solve problems. That's one of the reasons I took my dryer apart this past weekend.
Right.
And one of the reasons that I love going into businesses that are not horrible businesses, but they're struggling in some way because the previous business owner may have just been so busy in doing day-to-day business that they weren't looking for the small things that were the time thief that was not an efficiency where you put in a system where this thing happens this way every single time, and now the business performs more efficiently. You take time to educate the individuals that are working there. And yet one of the things I've heard John Maxwell say in the inner circle is, if you think it's expensive training people and then having them leave, try not training them and have them stay. Yeah.
I love that phrase. I think it's so good and so true because a lot of people are frightened about doing that. And of course, having John on the inner circle has been such a blessing to all of us because he doesn't do that for anybody. In fact, he didn't do it for anybody else. I mean, every month getting a lesson from him and having those 3 hours with him at the events and being able to ask him questions. Yet one of the questions that's been on my mind with you is, what do you determine between somebody that's growing revenue and a business that's building a healthier business? What do you think is the difference between the two?
Well, you have to have a balance. You can't abandon revenue and you can't abandon culture because one supports the other. Yeah. And there have been several times that I've stepped into businesses. I took over a failing family business that my family ran back in the early 2000s, and there was no culture. It was show up, get a paycheck, go home. There were no expectations. There were no, this is the right way to do things because it's the right way to do things. And so implementing, that culture was something we had to start from the ground up. Going into the orthodontic practice that my wife and I now own and manage, the culture was not there. People were, again, showing up for a paycheck, and that was the biggest benefit to them. Whereas we unfortunately had to invite some of those to go seek opportunity elsewhere. And we found people that had a better mindset and more growth mindset. We've got several employees that are still there and they've been there for 20 years. And the great thing about those employees is they were able to adapt from the static mindset they were in previously and the toxic culture and step in. It took time, but we saw the potential in those individuals and what they could do. And they were able to change their mindset into a growth mindset and adopt that belief. And the things that they have been able to accomplish over the last year has been amazing.
Yeah, that growth mindset is so important versus the fixed mindset that, hey, you either have it or you don't. Yet you've worked with so many businesses that have actually stopped growing. What is it as a coach that you find when they say, hey, my business isn't growing, I've just stuck right here? What's a great question that you come back with to get them thinking differently?
Is it possible? And that's a great set of words. Is it possible for this business to grow? And I usually get pushback on that one, right? From no, it's not. We've done this, this, and this. So is it possible that somebody else could step in and do something different? And that's a challenging question, because if it's possible for somebody else, the follow-up question is it possible that you could do something different?
Well, do they ever think that maybe it's working harder versus changing the way that they're doing the business? So many people put on blinders and it's like, we've done it that way for years. We got to keep doing it that way. We just have to work harder at it versus, hey, is there another way? Is there another tech? Is there something else that's out there that would make it easier, faster, better, with more revenue? Do you find that?
That's one of the blessings that I've received in adopting that curiosity mindset as well. It's remaining in curiosity. Now, I hear people say this semi-incorrectly frequently. They say, come from curiosity. Well, if you come from curiosity, that's a starting point, right? The problem is people come from curiosity and they ask a first question that's curious. And then after that, they abandon all curiosity and they start jumping to conclusions. It's remaining in curiosity. Well, what makes you say that? And just like you had alluded to there, It's when somebody says, oh, well, that's the way it's always been done.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, what's the reason? That's the way because that's how I was shown to do it. Great. What's the reason it's done that way? And we go back to, I don't know. It's just how it's been done. Great. So is it possible that we could change something and do this better or more efficiently? And that's the question that I've encouraged all the folks that work with me to ask themselves.
Yeah.
Is it possible that this could be done better or more efficiently?
You know, it's interesting because in Bold, as you remember, when I introduced that concept, I used where the lady took the ham and cut the end of the ham off and put it in the pan. And she says to her mom, Mom, why do we always cut the end of the ham off? And the mother says, well, Grandma always did it. Let's go ask her. So they go to the grandma and said, hey, how come we are always taught to cut the end of the ham off? And the grandma said, well, I only did it because I didn't have a pan big enough to hold the ham. Yet for 2 generations, they kept cutting off the end of the ham. And I think that's what a lot of businesses do. They keep doing the same thing, never willing, because the blinders are on, to get the perspective of it way out here. In fact, I love what Steve Jobs always did. He put his fingers out here. He'd look up, he'd look down. He'd look up, he'd look down. And then he'd look side to side. And then he would bring his fingers from here all the way out until he could see a bigger perspective. And when he couldn't see both fingers, then that's when he'd sit down and start thinking about all the options that he had. And I think it's just training our brain that there are more options out there. Are we willing to broaden our horizons? And speaking of horizons, you've definitely broadened ours today with the great questions and coming from curiosity and staying in curiosity. Great leaders ask great questions, and that's what makes you a great leader. So in ending, what final words do you have for all the people listening and or watching today?
Well, I think the folks that are intentional about listening to your podcast are already those individuals who are lifelong learners. And I would encourage people, maybe if they've stumbled across it or got sent the link to your podcast, to explore the opportunity to never stop learning. It's a perpetual growth because, hey, going back to Mary Kay, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah. And stagnant water stinks. So let's face it, we don't want to become stagnant. I'll tell you, Tyler, you've helped us so much today. And I see why you're great at business. I see why you're great at conversations, being a keynote speaker and helping other people, going out, coaching folks. My word, you're a solution strategist. You specialize in identifying creative opportunities for people, solving complex situations. I've seen that in the inner circle, you helping many people. And you turn ideas into practical ways of doing things, practical strategies they can implement that fast. And we're so glad that you've been with us today. I've so enjoyed not only having you in the inner circle, getting to know you better. This podcast helped me to get to know you a little bit better too. And those of you who have enjoyed this, subscribe below to Becoming More, because you too become more. It's always out there. There's another step in the ladder to success, or the ladder of significance for you to climb up. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure.